Hello, my name is Marwa Al Salame, and today I'm going to talk about my project, which is about improving data accuracy and housing data. Basically, I focused on finding and handling outliers to make the data more reliable. I'll start by explaining the problem, the goal of this project, then the dataset I used. After that, I'll go through how I prepared the data, the methods I used to detect outliers, and how I handled them. Then I'll show the results, compare the methods, and also demonstrate my interactive tool. Finally, I'll end up with a short conclusion. The main problem is that housing data often has outliers. Outliers are values that are very different from the rest of the data, and these can make the analysis less accurate and sometimes misleading. So we need good ways to detect and handle these outliers. My goal for this project is to improve the accuracy of housing data. I did this by using different methods to detect outliers, comparing them, and finding which one works best. I used the California housing dataset, and it has around 20,000 rows and includes features like income, house value, and number of rooms. Also, the dataset did not have any missing value, so that just made it easier to work with. For the data preparation, first I explored the dataset to get a better understanding before applying any methods. Then I checked if there were any missing values. After that, I visualized the data using histograms and box plots just to understand the distribution of the dataset. Finally, I scaled the data using standard scaler. And one thing I noticed is that the dataset is not normally distributed just by looking at the histograms. Now for the detection methods, I used 4 different methods to detect outliers. IQR, which works well with the skewed data, Z-score, which assumes the data is normally distributed, isolation forest, which is a machine learning method, and the autoencoder, which is used on deep learning. Each one of those works in a different way, so I compared their performance. After detecting the outliers with 4 methods, I came up to a different method which is called Windsorization, and this basically, instead of removing outliers, we kept the extreme values. So I kept all the data but reduced the impact of outliers. That's just a way, if we don't want to remove any outliers, we can use this method. Now let's look at the results. Each method detected a different number of outliers. For example, the IQR removed about 20% of the data, which is quite high. Z-score only removed around 4%, but it did not work well because the data is not normally distributed. The iSolution forest removed about 10%, which is a good balance between keeping data and removing outliers. Now, the autoencoder removed around 5% and was able to detect more complex patterns. And after cleaning, the data distribution became much more smoother and more consistent. So this means the data is now more reliable for analysis. And overall, different methods give, of course, different results, and choosing the right one depends on the data. Here I compared all the methods side by side. You can see how much data each method removed and how effective they were. And this helps in choosing the best method depending on the situation. I also created an interactive tool. For this tool, the user can select a method, adjust parameters using a slider, and then run the detection. Then they can see results like number of outliers, data size, and retention percentage, depending on the dataset they're using. It also shows graphs like histograms and box plots before and after cleaning. And this makes it easier to understand how each method works. Now to conclude, the IQR works well for skewed data, but removed a lot of values. And the z-score is not suitable when data is not normal. And I said that earlier that the dataset is not normally distributed, so z-score here it does not work well with this dataset. While the iSolution Forest gives a good balance, and the autoencoder is useful for more complex patterns. While the Winsoration helps keep all data while reducing extreme values. That's just an option for people who does not want to remove any outliers or any data from the dataset. So overall, choosing the right method is very important for improving data accuracy. That's all. Thank you for watching.